Hey, before I dive into this episode, I just want to say a big thank you to those of you who've been reaching out to me after listening to these episodes, letting me know that you're following along. Yay! And also that you're trying things or sending me ideas that you have seen people try out in the wild. So cheers to Anne, who sent me an article about people who are getting together to do their administrative work, like unsubscribing from emails and deleting emails and cleaning up inboxes and paying bills and making a party out of that. Yes, please. That sounds fun. Or to Amanda, who told me that she had a birthday party and decided to make it a themed party and had a potato party. That's all she said to her guests, just come to the potato party. So people brought potatoes, people dressed like potatoes, they ate potatoes. What a fabulous party. Keep them coming, friends. I love this. I love hearing about real things that are happening out in the world that are keeping us connected and together. All right, on to the episode. Welcome to Gather, Connect, Create. I am your host, Megan Schultz, and this is the podcast where week after week, we talk about gathering, we talk about connecting, we talk about creating, and how you can do that with your people wherever you are. My hope is that each week these episodes leave you with a bit of inspiration, a new perspective to sit with, or an idea to try in your community. Welcome back. So happy to be back here with you. Thank you for joining me. If you are sticking with this new iteration of the podcast, Gather, Connect, Create, I want to talk about an interesting gathering only briefly, because that's not really the point of this episode, but there used to be an event. I don't think it's happening anymore, although it probably is in some way, shape, or form, called NaNoWriMo, which was short for National Novel Writing Month in November. And this is an event that people around the world would participate in to attempt to write a novel in 1 month. And I tried this a couple times. I did finish it once. Finish means you get 50,000 words. It's still sitting on my computer. I've never done anything with it. Haven't even gone back to read it because I was just so happy to be done with it. But an interesting form of gathering, so I'm mentioning it here. But I'm mentioning it because I remember learning when one tries to write a novel about how they say, whoever they are, the writing experts, whatever, say that there are two kinds of novel writers. There are pantsers and there are plotters. There are people who sit down and write out their outline and get note cards and pin them up on a board and know exactly what scene is following the next scene, and what is the climax, and what is the conflict, what is the inciting incident, all those phrases that you need to know of when you write a novel, right? And then once they have their entire book plotted out, they sit down and they start writing. And on the other hand, there are the people called pantsers who, as you would expect, fly by the seat of their pants and just wake up each morning and see what comes, not knowing where a character is going to end up, whether he or she will be alive at the end of that writing session. Who knows? They just pants it. And I'm only bringing this up because I'd like to just let you know that I am pantsing this podcast. I have an idea of what this could be, but I have not plotted out every single episode. So if it feels like I'm coming and going with random ideas about gathering, connecting, and creating, that's what I'm doing. So I know I started with name tags and I spent, 15 minutes talking about name tags and geeking out on how important they are. And that's because that's where I wanted to go when I recorded that episode. But today I do want to backtrack a little bit. So if I was a plotter, I probably would have put this episode first. But I want to talk for just a minute on today's episode, though, about one of the things that came up that I talked about in the first episode when I was going through my own list of why I think people aren't gathering. And that is that idea of a lack of confidence in ourselves as gatherers, in our ability to draw a crowd, in our ability to come up with an idea or a concept that people would want to come to, and that fear that nobody shows. And I want to say that that is totally legit. I get that. I have that every time I hit send on an invitation to a group of people. I have that quick inhalation of breath of, oh, what if nobody comes? And there are a couple things I want to say about that. The first is that that is about me, right? When I have that fear, when I have that worry, that is my ego fearing the worst, fearing that I have just booked a room that can hold 50 people and only 3 show up. And how does that reflect on me and my ideas and my abilities and my value? But I have really been working hard this last couple years to reframe my idea of what success looks like. And part of that is helped when I have an idea of what success means to my guests. So before I send an invite out, before I plan a gathering, I really sit down and think about what is it that I want the people I'm inviting to walk away with? What do I want them to leave feeling? How do I want them to feel while they're there? But what do I want them to remember about the event days later, weeks later? And that really helps to set my own expectations for myself and for the event. Because I don't think the guests are that bothered about how many people come. Because ultimately what the guests want to do is make connections. They want to walk away with maybe a new friend, maybe somebody in their network who they can call on for something. Maybe they want a chance to reflect, or maybe it's a chance to do some deeper thinking or talking or writing. Maybe they want to literally walk away with something. Maybe it's a creative thing that I've invited people to do. But whether or not the event was a success is less to do with how many people came and more to do with the quality of our time together. And I have really had to reframe that concept for myself over and over. It's something that I'm constantly reminding myself. And I'll give you an example from my own life. So I have had this podcast, Cream City Dreams, for over 3 years. From the very beginning, what I knew I wanted to do eventually was get all of the guests in the same room. Because I thought to myself, and Shelly and I talked about this in the beginning, what would it look like if we could get all of these incredible women from our city in the same room? What could we accomplish if we set our minds to it? What could we do for our city, for ourselves, for each other, for our community? And it was on my bucket list forever. If you listen from start to finish to the podcast, I would guess that at least in over a dozen of the interviews or conversations, I mentioned that to the guests, right? And yet I sat on it. I sat on that idea because I was too scared to send it out, because I thought, who am I to invite all of these incredible women? And if you live in Milwaukee and if you look at the guest list from the show, you'll see how incredible these women are. And I got nervous. And I thought, there's no way I could get them all to come. And even though I talked about it, even though I whispered it to people, I still wasn't pushing send on that invitation until I got an email from 2 of my former guests, Cheryl Kniesel and Alicia Miller, who were having coffee and talking about the idea because I had mentioned it to Cheryl, and said, we're just going to do this. We're going to help you do this. And I thought, oh my gosh. Wait a minute, 2 people will come. 2 people will come. And that in and of itself gave me the courage to just get the invitation out. And at that point, this was last spring, there were 98 women on my list. I knew that Cheryl and Alicia would come. I got in touch with my dear friend Nell Benton, who had also been a guest on the podcast and happens to be an incredible chef, and asked if she would make a coffee cake. I asked Maggie Jose, who had been on the podcast, if she would make a sweet treat to share because she was a chef. And she said yes. So right away I had 5 people. And so I said to myself, you know what? If I send this out to 98 women and these 5 women are the only women who show up, that is a success. That would be wonderful. I love these women. So why wouldn't I love a morning with these 4 women? But I sent it out and 28 women RSVP'd. On the morning of, I think maybe a few couldn't make it, as always happens with events, but I think I had a room full of 24, 25 women. That's a quarter of the women who had been on the podcast in one room together. I cannot tell you how giddy I was for the rest of the day, the rest of that week, the rest of that month, because I had let go of that fear of what if nobody shows up and just trusted that whoever showed up would show up. And those were the women who were meant to gather that morning. And we did. And I'm sure I will use future episodes to talk about a few of the things we did that morning. But I just want to emphasize the importance of letting go of the ego as the host, letting go of the expectation, and being open to redefining success in terms of numbers and instead looking at it in terms of quality of the connections that happen regardless of how many show up. And I will say that I did another event for the same group of women the next month, different location, and this time 13 women showed up. So fewer, but boy, did we have an incredible connection. And it was an entirely different group of women. A few repeats from the first month, but a different group of women. And the universe responded. Those women who were meant to be there that day showed up. And I will say it just happened again in October. Again, a new location, same group of women getting the invitation. This time 8 women showed up, but we went deep. So I am learning, and so I want to share as I'm learning that success does not mean big. Bigger is not always better, because if I define my success in gatherings according to numbers or according to a percentage of people who show up, then I am probably going to be disappointed most of the time. But if instead I'm looking at success as my guests would look at success, the people I've invited, did they make a connection? Were they able to express themselves? Did they feel seen and heard? Were they able to receive the stories of other people and see someone else? Were we able to connect as humans, as women, as possibly now friends? If the answer is yes to any of those, then by gosh, this was a success. So all of this to say in this short and sweet episode, as you're thinking about becoming a gatherer, as you're thinking about what you might host, drop the expectations of numbers. It's fine to invite a ton of people if you want, but drop the expectation of how many should come in order to call it a success. And enjoy the moment that you create right there, right then for your people. And if there's another lesson to be had from that, it's make sure just one more person can come. Have a gathering bestie that you can call and say, okay, here's the date I'm thinking. Can you make it? Because if nobody else can make it and it's just you and me, that's a night off. That's a night away from the kids. That's a night out, whatever it is. And that's a success. All right. I am not saying any of this is easy. I will never say that on this podcast, but it's doable. And that's what I hope that listeners are taking from these episodes, that you too can do gatherings. You can bring people together in a way that feels good to you, that feels easeful, if not easy, and in a way that allows you to let go of the fear of, am I doing it right? Will people show up? They will, even if it's just you and your bestie. So I would encourage you this week, as you think about what you might be able to offer in your circle, start small. Start with 1 or 2 people. Let go of the expectation that bigger is better, that it has to be Instagram worthy, that it has to be larger than life, and embrace the connection that you have with the people who show. I'll be back next week with more ideas for gathering, connecting, and creating. Until then, remember, this is a practice. And the more we practice, the better we get.